to Amy. And I went, oh, that's why it's working. You were as sweet as can be. But when you talked about your job, you didn't like this manager, you didn't like this coworker, you didn't like this. But when you talked about Amy, oh, you were a sweetheart and the sweetest. And Amy said the same thing about you. And I'm like, okay, it's the job stuff he's grumpy about. It's not life and it's not his wife. Cool. And since then, that's what I've seen, is what a team the two of you are. And that you really do support each other. And you've had to support each other this last year over some really hardcore stuff. Losing both of Amy's parents in such a short time, just devastating. And you know, your dad's been in care for a long time, and that's not going to change.
I was putting him a letter today, actually.
Yeah. You know, so for me to see the relationship you and your wife have, awesome. You know, awesome.
And so do we.
I'm talking. Your turn's coming. Now, Amy started volunteering over at Family Focus, and at first she was like, and then she started to get into it, but it took a while.
I'm trying to find the room, so it's not easy.
Oh yeah, CSUN, it's hard to find, you know, a building there. Yeah, yeah, it's true. And she had, you know, her mom and dad were absolutely wonderful, and they were just such nice support and funny. Your mom and dad both had great senses of humor. And, you know, they were dancers. They grew up in Hollywood dancing and being in movies and Elvis movies and all sorts of
We
stuff.
finally got the memorial.
Yeah, and her mom, absolutely, I mean, like, fantastically gorgeous, like movie star gorgeous. And her dad, that body. He was a dancer and liked to show off that body a lot.
My favorite bottom.
Yeah. But, you know, they also were very devoted to their family, to you and your sister and your nieces. You know, awesome. Good people. And they will be very, very much missed. But the thing I was really impressed with is when Amy was figuring out how ill her parents were and what was going on, she was very able to express herself and get support from people. And when you're going through crap, it's really good if you can share that. And you don't have to spend hours on it, but if you can get a little of that out, then you can get some support, and then you can do whatever else you need to do. And Amy just naturally knew how to do that. She was also the one that said she needed some counseling support, and she went and got that. And that style of knowing what you need and going after it, I mean, if that's not what self-advocacy is, I don't know. I mean, that's the best you can do. And because life always is going to have some struggles. But if you can, like, express them to people that are supportive and get some guidance and help, it's awesome. And then you can be there for other people too. Now, Suzanne. Suzanne and I have this back and forth bickering relationship because she's her way and I'm my way, and we don't always see eye to eye. And sometimes we eventually do because we're saying the same thing just different ways. You know, gee, surprise. But I met her when she just got out of high school, and when she was doing a lot to really become as independent as possible as a very young adult, and was fighting for things. You know, that chair, that walker, they weren't going to stop her, that kind of stuff. And years ago, when MTA went on strike, how did you get to work?
My chair.
Yeah, how many miles?
It's 7 miles, but it took me like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, she was in the newspaper with her chair, rolling to work, so she didn't lose her job. Okay? So you want to talk about like a powerful person in terms of they will do what it takes to make stuff happen. All there. 100% all there. And she's had some hard jobs that were a struggle. And, you know, sometimes you think you can overcome the struggle And sometimes what happens is it's just not getting better, it's not getting better, and then you have to say, I really can't do this. I tried, I gave it my best try, but not every job works for us. And sometimes the job we had 2 years ago is fine, but now 2 years later it's gotten harder or different, and you can't do it anymore. So I think you understand what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
because you've already gone through some of that.
Right.
Okay, and Suzanne has done presentations up in Sacramento. She's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And she's trained some people along the way in this field, which is awesome, So we will continue to bicker because we do look at things from different angles. And eventually we will find the places that we agree and we'll go, why did it take so long to get there?
But for me, that also I think makes me stronger because it's coming from another point of view.
You're right. We do learn from each other. You're totally right. But we look at things from different angles, and
Yeah.
from the very beginning we did. That hasn't changed. It's not like, suddenly, no. It's been that kind of figuring things out and then finding the common ground. Now, Bernard, what can I say? Coolest guy. I mean, just hard worker, nice guy, and if he wants to do something, he's right there. If he doesn't, bye. And really enjoyed having you working with us at Family Focus, and it's nice to see you from time to time, and it's good to see you doing well. That's what I really like. And he's not a big talker, so you get the short version of things, but he's a hard worker, and he's got a really good attitude. And that's the kind of stuff that, I always take inside me, and that goes in my heart. Now, Armando. This is the guy who just gets everywhere somehow, And it's like, I've seen him in places, and I'm like, how did you get here? And he'll have a story of how he made it there, and he's just going to wing it and do the best he can and get help when he can. But if help doesn't show up, he just figures it out anyway. And I'm always impressed, just totally impressed, because, I have problems with directions. So I can only imagine if I had more of a visual impairment, how restricted my life would be, because I struggle with that stuff. And for Armando, it's life, and he just deals with it with a good attitude usually. Surprises me, because he's not grumpy, It's really, really nice. And the fact that you took time off work, you and Destry did, I really appreciate. That was really nice. Thank you so much for being here. Now, Paula. Okay.
Oh no, Kathryn.
Paula and I either really get along well or we don't. And then we find our way. But she's stubborn and I'm stubborn.
Tell me about it.
So, she'll have her way of doing things and I'll have my way, and she's going to stick to her guns and I'm going to stick to mine, and John's in the middle. Poor guy.
And John has to come along and straighten things out.
However, very much like Suzanne and I, Paula and I figure it out eventually. We just don't figure it out right away. It takes a little time. And that's the way it is. Now, sometimes the problem is that Paula doesn't realize she needs to work with her hearing aid a little bit more. So I'm like trying to talk to her and she's not hearing me at all. And it's really, she's not hearing me. Other times she's so focused on something, she doesn't hear me, and that's when I do the waves.
Yeah.
But she does things from the beginning to the end, and she's very thorough, and she does quality work each and every time. And that's what I appreciate. And she's motherly. We always need that. We like that. She cares about people and has the biggest heart. The biggest heart. And then the tears come. So it will be very hard not to see you on a regular basis and not to have that relationship, each week or every 2 weeks. It's going to be a struggle for me because, you know, you've been there so long, so consistently, and done so much. I truly appreciate it. You're good people, Paula.
Thank you, Kathryn.
Now, Brian,
All right.
my wannabe Elvis. Okay? I think the world of Brian
So what?
because he has such a positive attitude. And he's so funny. He has the best jokes. I love them. I'm a little kid at heart, so his jokes just like tickle me. They're great. And I appreciate them. The other thing with Brian is he also does good quality work and he completes what he starts.
Yep.
He has a system. He makes it happen. He and Amy, oh my God, the two of them work so well together.
Yeah.
If Amy doesn't know how to do something, Brian's like da 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 da. If Brian's doing something he hasn't done, Amy's like, oh, you just do da da da. And I'm like, I would never have said it that way. I wouldn't have showed it that way. And it's like, my gosh, the two of them, they have a real connection in terms of understanding how to get things done. How would I figure that? I'm very impressed. Always have been, you know, and I really like just how hard you work,
Yeah.
what a good attitude you have.
That's me.
And, you know, you've had some health problems and different things, and nothing brings you down.
No.
You know, you just keep on trucking.
Yeah.
And we get to see you, you know, really doing the things you enjoy doing.
Okay.
You know, you're dancing.
Oh,
I've seen
yeah.
you do performances. You're a good dancer.
Oh, look at mine.
You know, you're a character with your karaoke. You know, and I saw you in a couple of plays. You played a dead guy really well.
I was playing that.
He had, and it was a long scene. He had to stay dead for a long time. I was like, how is he doing this? You know, don't you like you get a little tickle or something, or a little, you know, or have to sneeze or something? It's something, yeah. He was a great dead guy, so he can act.
That was me and Jeff.
Oh, it was great.
It was
great.
It was the acting.
Yes, it was acting.
And I took a ukulele class.
Yes, which is cool.
In the first house.
Yeah,
Me and Philip and Jeff.
that is cool.
And we do ukulele in his
That's so cool. Yeah, but what I really like is that Brian has interests and he goes after them. You know, he makes things happen. Now, he has a wonderful family too.
Oh, look at my
You know, there's no doubt about that. And your sister got married the same day my oldest niece got married. And they had almost the same style of wedding and all this stuff. And your sister's in San Diego. My niece is now in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay? And by the way, she's calling up my sister all the time. Mom, how do you make this? How do you do this? When do you have to pay this? My sister says she's hearing from her married daughter now more than she ever did because her daughter is having to learn how to do everything at, you know, in a different state and married, and her husband doesn't know this independent stuff either. They're very, very similar. They're both learning. They do know how to make sandwiches, but I am going to tell you, they've had a little trouble with the macaroni and cheese in the blue box. Yeah. My other nieces are appalled because they both cook, one really well, but the other's like, oh my God, I make macaroni and cheese like since I was 8, you know. Renee made it as the recipe called for, but she forgot to cook the noodles the amount of time called for.
Oh no.
So the cheese sauce was pretty good. However, those noodles were crunchy. And do you know that box says there's 4 servings? Well, there was hardly enough for the 2 of us. So my other niece, who is 18, said, Renee, every time you and I had macaroni and cheese at home, I always made 2 boxes if it was a meal. If it was a snack, I only made 1 box. Come on, the portions are half a cup. do you eat just half a cup for dinner? You know, and Renee's like, really? You use 2 boxes?
Oh my God.
And she goes, and you cook the
Cup
noodles.
of noodles.
Oh, it was hilarious. So there are stories about all the things she's learning to cook the first time now. But in the blue box is a little tough for her. So my sister is bringing, it's my phone, I'm ignoring it. So my sister is packing her those mixes that all they require is water. And then she calls up and says, you do have a measuring cup, right? You know, so it's adorable, you know, but anyway, I just want to say, you know,
Okay.
guys are great.
Well, very much.
Brenda, you already know how I feel.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's so good to see her doing well and, you know, making a real life for herself. I just wish she'd visit more often, but that's just me talking, you know. And one of the things that I absolutely love about you is you are a very honest person, you know. You say how you feel. If you're feeling badly, if something's bothering you, there is a part of you that shuts down for a little while. That's just, you know. But there's this other part that you really do work through things. You're not going to just sulk forever. You know, you're not just going to feel bad forever. You're not going to be upset about something forever. And even as a little kid, you know, you would have those huge tantrums. I mean, they would be nasty, right? But then when you got over it, you were really over it. You didn't like hold onto it. You'd remember it. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But you didn't like, it didn't ruin your whole day. It was like, okay, that was half an hour. Now I'm okay. And that takes something special for a person to do, because you know a lot of people, they have a bad time and they just let it like go forever. They just don't get out of it. And you've always had that, you know, I'm intense, I've got my feelings, I like to do things a certain way, I'm independent. But then you pull yourself up, you know, and to watch you do that from like a toddler to, you know, now, it's like that's just part of who you are. And that's going to serve you really well, and it serves the people around you really well, because they know you, and they know what to expect from you, and they know you're not going to pretend or make everything okay when it's not. You're real. And not everybody is, you know? And not everybody's willing to show who they are. You know, especially when you're young, sometimes you know, just sort of step back and let other people, you know, and you don't do that. So that's something that I think is just a really good quality. And I think that, you know, whether you're this age or 25 or 45, I think it's going to really help you be all and do all that you want to do. I think it's going to, you know, you've got that drive, you've got that, I'm going for it. I'm going to make stuff happen, and I'm not going to get stuck. And, you know, I love that. Plus, you're super, super smart and, you know, all that other stuff. And it's really weird to see you, like, so grown up. Like, oh my gosh. And beautiful, you know. So, it's been really nice to see you, and you do have to keep in touch. You know that, okay? And just so you know, you're incredibly lucky. And if you do anything to hurt her, we will all come after you.
If I hear about it, I'll figure a way to get after you.
But no pressure. You know, did he expect to get off the hook? Come on. No, he knew it. You know. Now, Caroline. What stories do I tell?
You better tell the good one, because
Of
there's
course.
the worst.
We have the story of we come back from a conference, what, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, to this parking lot.
Wow.
Her ride's not there. We're like, we call the group, she calls her group home. They're not going to come. Take a cab. I'm like, who's paying for the cab? Caroline doesn't have the money. I'm not footing the money. What's the deal? And, you know, it was absolutely ridiculous. What I loved about Caroline is it's now like 1:30 in the morning. Okay, we've been at a conference all day in LA, and she's just gonna keep going with it and keep figuring it out, and we're just gonna put one foot in front of the other and make something happen. What time did you get home that day?
Late.
Late.